Okay, so hi there guys, this is my first video diary. Basically just going to give you a bit of a look at the equipment which I'm going to take with me on Ice Cold to Magadan, give you an idea of the kind of stuff that we're going to need in the kind of temperatures that we're going to be experiencing. So let me take you around the table of fun. Okay, so basically one of the most important things I think, well, you know, for any kind of trip where you're going into cold weather is to protect your feet. So obviously you've got lots of sort of high quality merino wool socks. Merino wool is particularly known for its good qualities for Arctic type conditions. It's a very fine wool, very fine indeed, and it's very smooth and comfy. So I have a number of pairs of those, plus a few pairs of other boot socks which aren't necessarily merino wool actually, but they're warm socks, and at the end of the day I couldn't really afford to buy a lot of pairs of merino wool socks because they're not cheap. So footwear, very important. I think that's probably one of the first place to start really is your feet. So I'm looking at the socks. I also have my snow boots. Here we go. So let's just take one of these and have a look at it. Now you'll notice there's a slight addition to the base of these. So these particular snow boots are made by Parallel Extreme, if you can see, and they're actually lined with Finsulate. So the company that makes gloves and linings and all that sort of stuff, Finsulate insulation, and they're actually lined with this stuff. So as you can imagine, the inside is very lovely and cozy and warm. I mean, literally, you can stick your hand in there, it's lovely, it really is. Now, a little added extra grip for these is the addition of these crampons, which are going to be very useful mainly when we're going off the track, as it were, onto pure ice really, and going across sort of lakes or rivers, and also any kind of ice fishing type stuff. So as you can see, they are quite hardcore, and they basically just as one giant elastic, it's kind of a rubber kind of top to it with chains which connect to these spikes at the bottom. So you certainly wouldn't want to be walking on anybody's flooring, like parquet flooring in those, because that would not be good at all. So those spikes aren't going to be on there all the time. Those will only be put on when you actually need to go proper off-road on foot. So okay, so those are the boots. Other aspects, the fingers, really important. So I've got a basic normal pair of kind of woolen gloves, but those are actually only really a liner. The main gloves are these ones, and they're made by a company called Soft Shell, and they're particularly good, and they do kind of ski wear and things like this for snow conditions. And actually those woolen gloves will fit quite nicely inside these gloves, so you basically wear two pairs if you need to. Okay, so the next kind of thing really is your head. It's kind of important. It's where your brain is. So I've got a number of hats. I've got my sort of Russian shapka, ushanka hat. Ushanka, by the way, comes from the word ushi, I think, which is basically ears. So it's one of those hats where the flaps come down and they cover your ears, which is going to be really important because, you know, your ears get quite exposed, obviously. That's quite a traditional sort of Russian type hat, but I may or may not take this one, only because it's not quite as warm as this one. And this was from Next, so it's not actually that like posh or expensive, but it's very warm, quite thick, and does a really good job. So that kind of hat. When I get to Yakutsk, actually, there is a really good stall there which we've been told we can actually purchase fur hats if need be. Again, you know, it depends when you get there. See what what the guides think of the equipment that we brought with us, and make a decision based on that, really. Another thing is, generally speaking, I think very generally speaking, a lot of the people out in the back and beyond that in Siberia tend to prefer animal skins and furs for their warmth qualities over man-made fibres. Which is best? Well, I don't know. For them it's more easily available to have a reindeer skin. For us, perhaps not so. So again, it really depends on what the experts think when we get out there, and you've got to go by local knowledge, haven't you? Because you ignore local knowledge at your peril. And when you're going into temperatures of sub -50, you really don't want to be mucking around. You want to be wearing the right stuff. So that's the headwear. Basically, then you're looking at base layers. I mean, anything which is close to the skin is a base layer, really. So here we've got again merino wool, but this time a long-sleeved kind of vest type shirt. That's going to become very, very useful indeed. And the same with essentially long johns, leggings. Again, merino wool, tight to the skin, providing lots of warmth. The idea in any kind of Arctic type condition is apparently to turn yourself into an onion. You need to have as many thin layers of air trapped between your skin and the outside. That by having lots of thin layers trapping air, that keeps you warm. Plus it's easy to remove a layer without jeopardizing your temperature, because obviously if you only had 3 layers and you took 1 layer off, you might be too cold and you've got nothing to go on in between. So thin layers is important. Again, so another sort of merino wool vest, the long johns, and the base layer top. Neck gaiter, again, it's a good thing to use. Actually, you don't have to worry about wrapping like with a scarf. You have to wrap round and it comes loose and all the rest of it. This, it's elasticy type. It goes around your neck and it'll keep you warm. And if the beard doesn't do it, that will. Here we have a balaclava, silk balaclava, which I may or may not need. But when we're going out with the reindeer herders and horse breeders, I think it would be really wise to have something extra, protection between your head and the hat, just to give an extra layer of warmth. So that's the base layers for the top. I've also got my old RAF issue long johns actually, which will also come in quite handy, because although they're cotton, it may be that I have the base layer merino wool and also have one of these over the top, the normal cotton long johns. It depends what's recommended and how you feel, really. So that's the base layers and the gloves. So the next items are the medium layers, intermediate layers. So on top of those various base layers, and by the way, I've also got another base layer here actually, which is again it's a zip neck top, which and it's polyester. So that would probably go over the top of those merino wool vests. And then on top of what you've just seen me showing you just back there behind me, you would then put this. This is a nice long sleeve fleece essentially, but it's fairly thin. It's not an outside layer, it's an intermediate layer. And then for the legs, you've got trousers here, but they are specifically lined with an insulated. Can you actually see that well? The light's not brilliant in here, but let me move that a second so you can see. You, the discerning viewer at home. So yeah, these are, I'm not even sure if you can see that, but they're lined basically. They're lined quite nicely, and they will keep me nice and warm, because they're not just the normal. They're not actually like a waterproof type. They're not actually a waterproof material. They're actually it feels quite what's the word? It's not like a shell suit type tracksuit thing, like waterproof trousers. These aren't hugely waterproof per se, but hopefully that won't be an issue. I do have some waterproof trousers to go over the top if I need to. But again, so if you think about it, you've got merino wool long johns, cotton long johns over top, padded trousers. You know, you're talking serious, fairly serious stuff. But it's good. It's good quality and it'll last. The next thing, over the top of your fleecy thing there, is the Arctic jacket, which I actually bought from Trespass, not the North Face. Got it some time back actually, when I was thinking I was going to be in Russia last April or February. So, but this is very good. This is actually made of. It's 50. You can't see that. I'll read it to you. It's 50% down and 50% feather. And you can really feel the softness, and if you press and feel with your fingers, you can feel the individual kind of feathers, if you like. That's lots and lots of layers of feathers trapping lots of heat. So that'll be really good and helpful. There is actually a hood which attaches to that too, which is over here. So I could attach that and use that too. However, I'm probably more inclined to use the fur hats rather than this, or indeed this and a fur hat over the top if you need it. So, okay, so that's the most important clothing, if you like. Other little things. There's another spare set there of essentially spiked grips to go on your shoes, on your boots. They're not quite as hardcore as the ones I already showed you. They are a little bit more tame, if you can call that tame. You wouldn't want someone to stand on your foot in that's for sure. But nonetheless, that's slightly less hardcore, but it's good to be prepared. So got those as well. And on to sort of non-clothing specific equipment. I've got 2 torches with of LED variety, and they are quite bright, and they've also got side lighted side strip as well. We also have obviously the camera, which I'm using, various things, something to keep the phone warm. This is some green tape. It's like a fabric tape, so you can tear it, but it's very strong, very tough, very sticky. And that's actually came from my Air Force days, because they were going to bin it once on a detachment, and I thought, well, that's a complete waste, so I saved it. It's very, very useful. That would be handy to have with us just in case. Head torch, obligatory really. You know, in any kind of situation, if you're out at night and you don't want to be using your hands but you need light, that's a great source of light. A whole packet full of tissues, because your nose might run. A fairly cheap watch I used to wear in the Air Force actually, which is it doesn't matter if it gets smashed to bits. Hopefully it'll work in -50, but mind you, if a watch is frozen because of -50, then I don't know what we're going to say about the wrist which it's attached to. If it's within the clothing, it shouldn't be an issue. Whistle and very simple compass. A knife, always very useful, either for emergency situations, for first aid. Say for example somebody broke their ankle and you desperately needed to get their boot off. You wouldn't bother necessarily untying the laces if they were knotted or whatever. You just cut the laces with that. Or of course any other multiple uses that it could be useful. Also have a really nice, it's not Leatherman's brand, but it is a multi-tool. Many of you will be familiar with that sort of thing, particularly if you've ever been in the Air Force. So that is actually if I can open it with one hand, that would be quite ambidextrous of me. So it's actually a pair of pliers, but it's also a number of other things, knives and tin opener, a saw, screwdrivers, all sorts in there. Very, very useful tool indeed to have if you're going to be on the road of bones. Anything could happen. Spare contact lenses, because ideally I'm going to use contacts. I mean, I don't know what effect if it's very, very, very cold, contacts may not be very suitable, so I will be taking my glasses. However, as much as possible, I'd like to wear contacts because it's going to give me a lot more freedom. It also means I can cover my face more effectively without the frames of glasses getting in the way. Plus, metal frames of glasses get cold, especially if it's obviously very, very cold. A spare memory card for the video camera, and a dummy wallet as well. Interesting point, actually. If you're ever going anywhere where you know it's a little bit off a beaten track, and there's always a bit of a risk when it comes to foreign travellers being mugged or whatever, tip of the day really, yeah, always take a dummy spare wallet. If for whatever reason you're unfortunate enough to be mugged, have this in your pocket along with your regular wallet. Put a little bit of money in this, not a lot, enough that you wouldn't be too bothered if you got mugged for it, for the sake of getting rid of the mugger and not losing the rest of your more important supply of money. So maybe 100 rubles or 50 rubles. It's not a lot in pounds. I mean, what, 50 rubles is basically a quid. So at the end of the day, you're not going to stand there and watch while they count it. So you could just leave it empty, but if they have a quick glance and they see that there's a note or something in there, then that's probably, they're going to be happy and run away anyway. So really take it out, fling it, and run, in the knowledge that you've lost a couple of quid, but you got away with your life and the rest of your wallet. Obviously don't put any documents or anything of any importance in that. It's a sacrificial wallet. So that's a very useful tip. So yeah, that pretty much concludes the main sort of equipment I'm going to be using. Obviously lots of other clothing as well. It's going to be, the underwear, all the usual sort of stuff is going to be really important. And yeah, there you go. So yeah, thanks for looking at the blog. Thanks for watching the video. Please feel free to leave comments below. Even quite frankly, tips. If any of you guys have been anywhere like this before, I know some of you have, possibly, or any tips culture-wise or whatever, then it doesn't matter how many times you go out to a country, you're never going to be a full expert on it. And if anybody who has been somewhere that you haven't has a little tidbit of knowledge, then you'd be a fool not to humble yourself and say, look, okay, yeah, I didn't know that, I want to know that. So anything you think could be helpful, post in the comments, and God willing, I'll be able to upload video diaries during the trip, although it depends on obviously internet access and stuff, which might be tricky if we're out in certain parts of the trip. Certainly once I get back towards Moscow area after the main Ice Cold to Magadan trip, I should have access to computers and be able to upload stuff. Thanks very much for your time. God bless, take care, and stay tuned.